In an unusual move, U.S. President Donald Trump hosted ambassadors from the United Nations Security Council at the White House Monday to discuss tensions on the Korean Peninsula.
This is a real threat to the world, whether we want to talk about it or not. North Korea is a big world problem, and it's a problem we have to finally solve. People have put blindfolds on for decades, and now it's time to solve the problem.
Trump is threatening more sanctions, and the U.S. has refused to take military action off the table as it moves a nuclear-powered submarine and the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier group toward the Korean Peninsula. A commentary published in an official DPRK newspaper warns the United States should not run amok and should consider carefully any catastrophic consequence from its foolish military provocative act. Adding to the tension, the DPRK detained a U.S. citizen over the weekend as he tried to leave the country. The man worked as a teacher at a university in the DPRK. It's not clear why he is being held. China is calling for a calm, measured approach.
The current situation on the Korean Peninsula is complex, sensitive, and highly tense. We urge all parties concerned to keep calm and restrain and refrain from taking actions that may result in escalation of tensions.
That message was delivered directly by Chinese President Xi Jinping in a phone call with Trump early Monday, with Xi also advising Trump that both sides must be prepared to compromise. The two leaders pledged to work closely on the issue.
A new level of threats and provocations from North Korea. Just hours ago, the regime carried out a large-scale artillery drill just 100 miles from Seoul, South Korea. Experts say that Kim Jong-un seems to be sending a message to South Korea, which is holding joint naval drills with the U.S. and Japan right now. Let's bring in CNN correspondent Will Ripley, who's live for us from Pyongyang, North Korea. He's the only American journalist reporting from inside North Korea right now. Will, you've been speaking to the people there. Are they sensing that the tensions are escalating?
Well, before we get to that, Jake, you know what that means. 5 a.m. here in Pyongyang, that's the morning wake-up alarm to get everybody out of bed. And people say they are up and ready to fight the United States if need be. That is the tone that we hear on the streets here in North Korea. I was actually speaking with a soldier in front of the USS Pueblo. It's the Navy ship that North Korea captured back in 1968, the spy ship. They held the crew hostage for a while back then, and the soldier said that this time around North Korea has a weapon that could sink the USS Carl Vinson carrier strike group. They also talked about the nuclear submarine that arrived in the waters off of South Korea, made a stop in Busan yesterday, and those trilateral joint exercises, the naval exercises between Japan, South Korea, and the U.S. They say they are not alarmed. They say they have faith in their leader, Kim Jong-un, that he has the weapons and the manpower to fight back against the U.S. Now, of course, this is a nation where there is no political dissent. It's an authoritarian regime, so of course all that you're going to hear is 100% support of the path that he's taking this country down, even as outside observers believe it's a dangerous path.
Meanwhile, Japanese officials have warned their citizens a North Korean missile would only take 10 minutes to strike Tokyo. This, as the New York Times reports, North Korea may have nuclear missile capabilities exceeding the knowledge of U.S. intelligence. For more on this, we're joined tonight by former U.S. diplomat Jim Jatras. Jim, nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Ed.
That seems to be the question at the hour. Just how capable is North Korea, and do we know everything we need to know? Your thoughts?
I don't think we know everything we need to know. Unfortunately, a lot of what we're seeing and hearing is based on fluff, that, Trump is inviting all of the senators to the White House. Why aren't they holding this up at the Senate, where they have a secure facility? That really is not the important thing here. The important thing is what's being said and what is happening behind the scenes, and is there anything being done to try to de-escalate this confrontation rather than what we seem to be seeing, which is threats and the potential of military action.
Taking a look at what we have seen North Korea do, is this posturing to the world, or are they serious players? Do you think, do we have a psychological read on this guy that he would actually retaliate at the highest level?
I think there's no question, Ed, that he would. I mean, we keep hearing about how crazy Kim Jong-un is and the North Korean leadership. frankly, if they did not have nuclear weapons, after seeing what happened to Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi and what we're trying to do with Assad, they'd be crazy not to have nuclear weapons. And when you get threatened, I say, well, we're going to take care of this problem if China doesn't. Our patience has run out. That sends a message that we're willing to take seemingly very serious military action against North Korea, which is what it would take, by the way, given how hardened their facilities are. If we're talking about their nuclear or missile capability, that's putting the regime at its survival at stake. If their back is to the wall, I have no doubt they will devastate Seoul and maybe do something to Japan as well.
So what do you think of the president getting the United States Senate to the White House to give him a briefing? Is he looking for a stamp of approval here?
I think he is. I think he's also doing that as a grand gesture, as much in the way that he did with dropping the Moab in Afghanistan, the strike on the Shayrat Air Base in Syria, which was done for demonstrative purposes. It really didn't have any military impact. I think he's doing this as a form of showmanship. The question is, what is the reality behind it? And that's what we don't know, Ed.
You know, I've asked this with other guests as well, and I want to pose it to you. Do you think that there is a sense of urgency with the UN Security Council? Somewhere at the White House, but it just seems to me that they're laying low, not in the headlines, not asking North Korea to watch out or really uniting the international community about what we could be seeing here. What are your thoughts on their, what I think is a lack of sense of urgency in all of this?
Well, I think when you say the Security Council, we're really talking about the Chinese and the Russians, since after all, the British and the French, they're simply our satellites, and they don't really have an independent voice in this. I think the Chinese and the Russians have made it very plain. They would like to see a de-escalation from both sides, but if this is going to turn into a contest of threats from both sides, there's nothing they can do about that. What exactly can they do about that, Ed?